All right, who are you and what did you do this weekend?
My name is Brenden Ornelas. I made top 4 this weekend at a BODE box tournament here at Patriot Games. I'm gonna kind of go over what I played. I played Drytron. It's a little bit of a weird build that I just put together because I felt like people were not giving some things as much credit as they deserve. But I know it's not the best and most optimal Drytron build out there. But before we begin, shout outs to David behind the camera here. He's a great dude. I played against him in top 4, lost to him, but you know, he's just a lot better. So we'll get into the deck profile here.
All right.
So pretty standard stuff for the Zetas, Alphas. We got 3 and 3 of each. I played 3 Delta and 2 Gamma. So the reason why, and I see a lot of people playing 3 Gammas and 2 Deltas, I draw into 1 Drytron name a lot. 1 Drytron name does not get you anything if that Drytron is Gamma. You cannot play the game. Delta gets you a draw at the very least, and in the build that I'm playing, I'm almost guaranteed to have a reveal in hand. So if I can get Delta and get a draw, a lot of the times I'll either get into my Drytron names or something that's gonna get me to those Drytron names. The fairy package, we got 3 Diviners, 2 Orange, 1 Ava. I don't really like these cards. I'm honestly thinking about making a build that doesn't run Ava or Herald or Perfection or Ultimatus and just going pure Drytron. These cards right here, I draw into Ava every single game in my top 5 cards. It's ridiculous how often I do that. And it's not bad to have Ava in hand, but it's just not something that you want to see, you know, going first. I do play the DPE package, so we got, well, we'll start with these 2, obviously, the 2 bricks. And then I only play 1 of the spell. I think that's also a mistake. I think drawing that spell is a lot stronger than I thought it was. I think the 1 of spell's nice, but I think you can probably play 2 or 3. I still have to test a lot on that though.
Was there a reason you played Plasma over Dasher?
Dasher just doesn't do a lot for the deck. You can't special summon a card that you draw if it's like a Drytron name or a ritual monster, that kind of stuff. Right. Plasma, at the very least, you get 3 names on board or something. You just summon into it and you have somewhat of a skill drain. It's probably not going to win you the game, and I've never done it, but it's a little more useful than Dasher is. So.
Fair enough.
For my rituals, let me get these out the way. We got Ida 10, Natasha, Ben 10. These 3 you pretty much have to play, I think. Ben 10's too good. Natasha is essentially a boss monster. After you successfully resolve it, you get to just yoink whatever monster off the board unless they've got a bunch of negates for it. Natasha's not once per turn while she's engraved, so you can banish both of these and they have to negate it twice if they don't want their monsters yoinked. It's kind of good. Also, Natasha can be summoned out on a Drytron that has only 1k attack because she is only 1k. Draconids is just insane. Attack every special summon monster they have, and for most decks that's just about their whole board. And he has a lot of attack, and he can also be boosted with Ida 10 over and over again to swing over things that are ridiculously high in attack.
He seems pretty good against the new bird deck.
Yeah, so he's just a ridiculous interrupt, a ridiculous card in general. I mean, he can do just about anything he wants to, and if they don't have a way to out him, they pretty much lose the game once you get him down. Perfection, kind of iffy on Perfection versus Ultimateness. I played Perfection today because I wanted to play Perfection with the Scythe DPE package. You know, people hate it, the idea of playing all these bricks together, and trust me, it wasn't the most consistent deck I've ever played. But it's doable, and I think as long as you're able to play around what you get in your opening hands, it's usually not too bad. I did break out like maybe 2 games where it was just solid bricks, and I mean, that's just part of Yu-Gi-Oh! But overall, I mean, going 3-1 with this deck, I feel like it's not as bricky as people say it is. Speaking of bricks, we have 3 Nova and 3 Emergency. This is kind of what gets you out of bricking. Like I said, if you can draw into one of these with Delta, if you do end up with just Delta in hand, a lot of times you'll be able to get something else on board, whether it's you know, Alpha to get yourself to one of these, or if it's Zeta to get yourself to the ritual spells. My only flex spots in the deck, 3 Chalice. Chalice is kind of nuts right now. I think it's really good into a lot of decks. The only issue I had with Chalice is that there's a lot of decks right now that just don't care. Also, if I'm going second, I have to wait to use Chalice, and it kind of puts me in a weird spot where I need to wait on them to use a monster negate to be able to use the card in my hand. It still works out most of the time, but it is just a little weird. I don't know if I would swap it for Imperm, but Imperm is, in my opinion, a little better. But yeah, I just played 3 Chalice. We got pre-prep, 3 of them, 2 prep, 3 pre-prep. This card is insane. If it resolves, you just get way too much advantage off of it. I don't know why people don't like this build. I think pre-prep with Scythe, DPE package and all that is a little cluttered, but if you're gonna play Perfection, pre-prep is mandatory and it's a really, really good card. 2 prep, I don't think we need 3 prep. You're drawing into your rituals a lot of times anyways, and if you're not, pre-prep is getting you to this, and then alpha is getting you to whatever else you need, so it doesn't matter too much. Also, diviner gets you to your rituals. I just don't think 3 prep is necessary. Rituals, Dawn of the Herald and Meteonis. These 2, I mean, mandatory for the deck. If you're playing Herald, you need Dawn of the Herald, and then if you're playing Drytron, you need Meteonis. Some people run 2 Meteonis. It only came up once in the tournament that my Meteonis got banished, and Cam banished it. I just swung for a game with Draconids anyways because it was already on board, and he couldn't do anything about it. So it didn't really matter at that point. I can see like situations where it would matter that you need a second one, but it just doesn't come up enough for me to feel like it's mandatory to run a second one. And then the 2 1-ups that are just really good, Foolish and Called By. Called By is mandatory for just about any deck that's going to be trying to go combo, and then Foolish to dump a Drytron name or whatever it is that you need. So that's the full 40, or 44, apologies. I do play 44. I think playing 40 with these is wrong. I don't like playing just 40 with DPE package. You have to go over, in my opinion, that way you're less likely to see these cards. If you see them, it doesn't hurt you too bad, especially the Fusion Destiny, but drawing into Celestial and Plasma does hurt a lot. Drawing into Scythe feels good. You can just set it and you don't have to worry about making Dagda. Drawing into these does not feel that great, especially Ava. Orange Light plus a Fairy doesn't feel bad, but it's still -2 if you have to negate and destroy something on theirs. So you trade a -1 still in card advantage. But if it's the right card that you hit, then it shouldn't matter too much if you Orange Light.
Okay, let's move over to the extra deck.
So in the extra, the mandatory, Link Karibo, you Nova, you get a Drytron on board, you link it out, and then you're able to use it from grave. Verde Anaconda, another mandatory card for this build. I mean, you're trying to get a DPE on board. It's a big, part of the end board, so you have to play it. Dagda as well. Obviously, you can't always search and you can't always draw into your Lance. Dagda, I think I only made it a few times because searching into Lance is just a little better sometimes. It is a light fairy, so you can search it off of Ben 10. But if they get rid of your Ben 10 and they're not allowing you to use it multiple times, you can just make Dagda and then use it to set your Lance. This card right here, a little bit of the sauce. It's a little bit of a meme, honestly. I saw it, I thought it was a really cool card. It can reuse Ava if you have it on board with DPE. It almost never happens. But I know the big part of this card is that all light monsters on the field gain 500 attack and defense. So if you can make 2 or 3 ritual monsters and you can just go straight into a game with a few ritual monsters on board that all gain 500 attack and defense. It's not the best card I've ever played in this deck, but it is better than like IP and stuff like that. I think IP in this deck is just like wrong. It doesn't really ever net you anything. The very few times you use IP, it's because they didn't hit it with Droplet and you need to make Appaloosa, but you're essentially conceding all the negates that you have in your hand at that point, so you just shouldn't be playing Perfection. I should probably be playing Nightmare Phoenix. I didn't run it, but Nightmare Phoenix is just really good right now in the current meta. I don't think Unicorn's as good as Phoenix. I wouldn't run Unicorn still, but I think Phoenix was probably a better card than this to run. These 2 here, the Appaloosa and the Bowl Sword. If you know you're playing against something that's just going to be using monster effects the whole turn, you just make Appaloosa on top of Perfection and pass. If you need to end for game or swing for game, Bowl Sword, him plus Draconids can swing for whatever you want. Only 2 Mu Beta Fafnir. I didn't feel like I needed a third except for maybe 1 game, and even then I had a way to kind of get through whatever I needed to. It just doesn't feel like you need 3 of these, so I'm not running 3. I did run Lyrilusk, not 100% on Lyrilusk. It made me Zeus once and the Zeus got judgmented, so Yeah, it wasn't really too great for me, but I've had Ornelas be really clutch in the past if you're playing against, especially like weird control decks, that kind of stuff, that they're not really letting you play the game too much. You can at least force some of their trap cards, that kind of stuff, just by going Ornelas and trying to push for Zeus. Downerd for Zeus food, and Zeus himself, pretty self-explanatory, one of the best cards right now in the game, I think. Beatrice, really good, especially in this version of the deck. You have a lot of level 6s that you can overlay. Beatrice can help you get to your second Drytron name. If you can get your ritual monsters out without a second Drytron name, you can just overlay for Beatrice and then dump Gamma or whatever you need to dump. That way you can get into it. Another interesting interaction with Beatrice, you can overlay your Herald, and it makes your pre-prep live once you dump the Herald, because you can pull the Herald out of graveyard with pre-prep. So it's just a little bit interesting to kind of use those interactions. It doesn't always come up, but Beatrice is still a really good card. The 2 targets to dump off of Diviner. So you have Arclight. I mean, pretty self-explanatory. You're going to gain 4 levels on her, make her level 6, plus you get the search. And then Entis, same thing with the level 6. You're also going to be able to pop a card on field. Entis is usually just to bait stuff out. I know they're probably going to stop me from popping whatever it is I'm trying to pop, but they have to respond to it. If they don't, then they're just conceding that card. And the big boy himself, DPE. This card, I think, is better than Dragoon. I was kind of torn on it for a while, but it comes with better bricks, or bricks than Dragoon. You don't have the vanillas that you're drawing into. You can still play the game if you draw on a Fusion Destiny. You don't have to just get Ash on a Red Eyes Fusion. And this card grinds out extremely well, which is kind of what Drytron's good at too. So that's the 15 on the extra. Side deck, 3 Nibiru. Nibiru is just really good to play around, or to force them to play around. A lot of people out here don't respect it, especially when they see that I'm playing Drytron. They don't think I'm going to side in Nibiru. I hit Cam with 2 Nibirus in one game. In the game before that, I hit him with Nibiru. That's how I won games 2 and 3 against him. I don't think I Nibiru'd anybody else. I just played against Control the whole day pretty much until I got to Virtual World and then David. So Nibiru did come up against Virtual World though a few times. I played 3 Chaos Hunter. I think this is wrong and I don't like it, but my theory behind playing Chaos Hunter instead of Lancia was Chaos Hunter doesn't lock me out of my own Ava effect on their turn. Realistically, it never came up that way and it didn't matter. Chaos Hunter, you have to discard a card. It doesn't really hurt Drytron too much. The one time I did summon it though, it did hurt me. I still won that game, but it's a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? You kind of go more neg on it than you do for Lancia. I would rather just run 3 Lancia. But at the time, I was just, I didn't think Lancia and Droll were going to be great because I wanted to Ava on the opponent's turn. A little bit of back row hate. I didn't think I was going to be playing it against as much control as I did. So I only went 2 Cosmics and 1 Lightning Storm. The other back row hate that I ended up having ended up winning me the game against controls, and that's going to be the 3 Evenly. This card is nuts right now. I think Evenly is probably one of the best cards in the current format, especially with people getting out of straight negate boards and just going for flip a whole bunch of spells and traps on you. Evenly kind of takes care of that, and it forces them to either have Judgment or Reboot or something along those lines. My last 3 was Dark Ruler. I never saw this. I sided it in, I think, only against 2 decks. No, I only sided it against David when she was playing Sword Soul, and I never saw it, so it didn't really come up. But Dark Ruler is just kind of Dark Ruler. It's a good card. If I would have had Droplets, I would have played Droplets in the main instead of Chalice, and then also added in Dark Ruler. Biggest issues I had with the deck are the lack of flex spots. You kind of have to take stuff out that you want whenever you're siding. So these cards right here, I ended up dropping 1 Nova almost every game, dropping 1 Diviner. Diviner doesn't hurt too bad because you can just search it. But I mean, it's just not ideal to have to drop cards like this whenever you're siding. It would be better if I could just drop the whole entire Perfection package and then have actual flex spots. That way I don't have to worry about what do I drop on my engine. I'm trying to remember what my matchups were. First matchup was Virtual World. I won that game. Second matchup was that weird fairy control with
Counter fairies.
yeah, counter fairies. He put up a barrier statue of light, and it didn't do anything to this deck. So I just ended up beating him 2 games in a row. And then I played against Paul, who was in the finals. He beat me. And then I played against Cam, and I beat him. Went into the top 4, played against David. He was on Sword Soul. That deck's absolutely nuts. I didn't respect it enough, I think. He also got to go first. So. But realistically, I think that was a little bit back and forth. I just didn't get the cards that I needed to see game 3, and so didn't end up being able to play that game. But that was just about it for me, and then he ended up winning the tournament. So.
All right, man. Well, congrats on the top. Hope to see you in the future, and just keep doing good.
Yeah, I'll try.